listening to the Transformations with Jayne podcast. I'm your host, Jayne Nakata, a New Zealander living her best life in Fukushima, Japan. I'm a podcast consultant and the creator of Pod Launch with Jayne, a system that helps you create your dream podcast without all the drama and hassle, leaving you more free time to do the things you love to do. This show is for people who want to hear stories of women who are doing amazing things here in Japan and across the world. You'll find loads of inspiration for how you can live your best life wherever you are. I'm glad you're here. Let's get on with the show. Hello and welcome to another episode of the Transformations with Jayne podcast. I'm the host of the show, Jayne Nakata, coming to you from Fukushima here in Japan with a very nasal voice this week. I have been sick for, I think it must be like 3 weeks now. Let's hope that's the end of it and then I start feeling fantastic again soon. But let's not let that keep us from what we're here for today, which is to introduce my guest for today, who is Violet Pacileo. You have heard her on the show exactly 2 years ago. And so there has been a great deal of changes since then. And I really enjoyed checking in with Violet to see what she's up to and all the things she has achieved since we last spoke. It's amazing. I know you'll find it inspiring. So let's get on with the show. Here is Violet. Hello, Violet. Welcome back to the Transformations with Jayne podcast. Great to have you back on the show today.
Hi, Jayne. Thanks for having me back.
Yeah, so for those people who don't know who Violet is, would you just give us a quick rundown on who you are, where you are, and what you do?
So currently I run a mountain CrossFit retreat in Kochi Prefecture. We only opened last year, but we have a large CrossFit warehouse in the mountains, Riverside. And then we also have a tiny house guest accommodation. We do e-bike rentals. We have a barbecue space for rent. And it's we've got stand-up paddle boards that you can go on the river on. And as well as that, I also consult. So those are the two things I do. But up until COVID, I used to work in the Japanese stock market for 15 years. So I had a career change 3 years ago now.
Yeah, so we had Violet on the show 2 years ago when you had just moved to Kochi a year earlier or so, right? You'd given up your finance job and you were just starting out in your new endeavor, which was to build this retreat that you've just been talking about, this mountain CrossFit retreat. And now it's an actual thing. It's actually exists. You built it. You did it. Congratulations. Let's just stop and say, wow, how amazing is that you did that? Like basically, I think this was Violet that did that. Tell me if I'm wrong.
No, I did it.
Yeah, you did it. Everybody else kind of just followed along and
There was no one else. It was just me by myself alone.
Right.
I got the money. I raised the capital. I created the business plan. I raised the capital. I built it. Found contractors to build this, and then now I've got people working here for me. So it was all me. No one else.
Yep.
Don't have a big staff. Just me.
Fantastic. What you have achieved in these last 2 years since we spoke. So when we last talked, you were sort of raising the capital, you had the plan for what you wanted to build.
Yeah.
How has that actually come to fruition? Like what is actually there now on your what was just empty land that would be not used?
It was just an empty plot of rice paddy land that my granddad stopped, growing rice 20 years ago. And he's passed away now, but my mom's inherited the land. She's been kind enough to let me rent the land from her, so I leased the land from her and I built this. Everyone comes here and they're like, wow, this is such a nice location, but it's not like I chose this location. This is the only land that was available for me, so this happened to be
happened to be quite beautiful.
So it worked out. It wasn't easy. I didn't have any capital myself. I had no money in the bank, and I didn't think I could raise any money because being an investor myself, like you don't lend to people that are risky. If they don't have any assets or collateral, you're not going to lend any money to them. So I have no idea how I managed to pull this off. It's just
You wouldn't have lent yourself any money
no,
either.
no. I think I taught myself through. I think I taught my way through it. Like I think that's my quality. Like I think I can sell anyone anything, and I guess I sold people
Yeah.
this vision, and they gave me the money. So
Yeah. So yeah, so now what's actually there on this land that you've built? What does it look like?
um, so we've got the largest part of it is the CrossFit warehouse. I call it a warehouse, but I used two local female architects who specialize in using local wood they specialize in Japanese wooden houses like Kominka and
Mm.
IKEA. But they were kind enough to help me with this project. So it's their first time building a warehouse. So it's a warehouse using um, reused steel structure, and then they managed to put like a bit of local hinoki wood around it to make it look a little bit more, you know,
Aesthetically
trendy.
pleasing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
in hindsight probably shouldn't have done that because it probably added a bit more cost to it. Um,
Sure.
but hey, it's done now. Can't change.
Right. Well, at least your warehouse is not like a scar on the land. It's not something ugly there, right? It's got.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not a traditional warehouse, CrossFit warehouse you would see in the US or Australia or New Zealand,
Yeah.
something like that.
Mm.
It was built from the ground up, so it wasn't like an unused space. But that's 280 square meter. It's just a big open space. CrossFit, you don't have that many machinery, so we just have just the basic CrossFit equipment needed in there. We don't have a big, we don't have hundreds and hundreds of members like a lot of bigger city CrossFits do. So we don't have that, a lot of equipment in there. There's a lot of open space you can work out in, which is nice. And then we run out of money. I say we, but I ran out of money pretty quickly because during so me submitting the proposal to the government and then me actually getting the money and then there's this project starting. It took about a year in between. So my first quote that I got from the architect, and then by the time I started the project a year later, everything went up. The prices went up by
Oh, would have done,
steel
yes.
prices, the wood, everything went up. So I had to cut 20. So when you think about, it's like a 1.2 million dollar project. And if it went up by 20%, I had to cut a lot of the stuff that I wanted to do. So
Mm.
there's a lot of things that I had to do myself and had to get the help of my husband to do. He's been great. Like if it wasn't for him, it wouldn't have happened. Like he disappeared for a year between, I think after we spoke from August for a
Mm.
year, he went back to the US with the kids. So I was left here by myself to like just build this from scratch. And he came back halfway through the construction. But after he came back, so he wasn't here. He was useless when he wasn't here. But when he came back, he helped me, get everything done outside, and he kind of maintains everything for me, so which is nice. I takes
Mm.
take off me. So he's like the head coach, facility manager. He does everything, which kind of like frees up my space to do my consulting, which is the other part of
Right, yes,
it.
your other part of your
Yeah.
business. Mm.
So I got sidetracked. So we've got the 280 square meter CrossFit, and then we also have a small tiny house accommodation next door on the same property, and the same architects built it. So it's wooden. It's like a modern wooden Japanese small tiny space. It's got 3 floors. It's basically one open space, but it's got 3 floors, like ladder going up to that space there. You can see it,
Hmm.
and then
Right.
ladder going up to the loft bedroom. So there's two beds, one sofa bed, one double size sofa bed, and one queen size bed. And I make sure everything's European size because I hate small, tiny beds and
Yeah,
small,
when they say
tiny.
bed and you're like, that's not a bed.
Yeah, sticking out from you. No,
Yeah.
no, so everything's
Yeah.
European. Even like the kitchen sink and the bathroom, everything. I made sure everything was raised
Right.
to the normal European standard size.
Mm, mm, mm.
So that's
Right.
it. And then we've got a little barbecue outside on the deck for people that stay here. And then we also have like we wanted to have an outdoors workout area, but I ran out of money, so that didn't happen. So it's just a big open like space, nothing on it. So we're trying to grow some lawn from seed.
Oh, good luck with that.
No, actually,
Is it going well?
yeah, it's like very lush outside. I don't know if you can see it.
Oh, it's looking good.
Yeah,
Yes.
but headache for my husband because he has to cut that grass.
Yeah. We have a big lawn as well, and I just spend my whole time picking weeds out of it, and like the
Oh,
weeds
really?
just go crazy. I'm like, what, where are these weeds coming from? Anyway, yeah, so that's what my lawn looks like, but hopefully
Yeah.
you're having a bit of an easier time growing yours.
Mm.
Very good. Amazing what you've created, Violet. I'm so impressed. I'm so impressed with everything you've done. And
Thanks.
yeah, with having your kids in the background and all of this as well to manage. So that's absolutely fantastic. What are some of the things you're doing with your consulting these days?
So for the consulting, so last we spoke, I was talking about regional revitalization consulting. That
Mm,
really take off, and but so loads of things happened that kind of like pointed me into what I'm doing now, which is, my kids were getting not bullied or picked on, but just getting loads of comments from teachers or adults or children because they're uneducated about the differences in,
yeah.
they're not
Tayo
very.
said they have no idea about it.
Yeah, they have
Yeah.
no idea about diversity in general. So,
Yeah. Mm,
so they were getting loads of comments from people that were making them upset about, why, having curly hair or having a different
yeah.
skin color or being bigger than everyone or speaking a
Yeah.
different language because they're only quarter Japanese. And I'm half Japanese and they don't think I'm Japanese. So my kids have it harder than me and my husband's half black. So they've got like a mixture of African American, Italian, Japanese, and then white, British. So they're a mixture of everything. They got three passports. They speak British English, American English. It's kind of a mixture of that, and then they speak Japanese. So they've got. I'm sure they're going to go through an identity crisis anyway. So that was just heartbreaking to see.
Yeah.
And also I remember talking about this in my last podcast about people in regional areas don't understand that then there's a gender disparity. They don't see it. They don't understand it.
Mm.
They don't see the need to change. So those kind of all came together, and I was like, oh, I wonder if I should just go and teach unconscious bias. I actually wanted to bring an unconscious bias speaker to the school, and that's where it started. And I contacted this organization that teach unconscious bias to schools, and they were like, we don't have anyone in Shikoku. Why don't you become one of them?
Mm.
And I was like, yeah, that's a great idea. So I trained, took their course and became a trainer. And now I teach unconscious bias to
Wow.
schools, to teachers, to different organizations. And then Kochi Prefecture, Gender Diversity Bureau, Equality Bureau, I'm still in touch with them. And they were like, oh, we don't have anyone teaching that in Kochi in general. Why don't you? Do you want to become our,
Right.
they might cause a lecturer. So I
Yeah.
do that for them, which kind of led me to Kochi University. So now I go to Kochi University to lecture students and teachers there on diversity management
Oh,
too, which kind of like everything kind of fell in place. And then because I'm doing that, I started to get noticed by, because I post things on LinkedIn, I started to get noticed by different, like a a Japanese venture capital firm contacted me and were like, can you be our diversity advisor? So I'm like, okay.
oh,
Another company, an activist investor, they want to be more, I guess, work on their diversity. So they asked me their board. So all this diversity management, doing it small scale here, is kind of leading on to other things
oh
elsewhere.
my goodness.
So
Wow.
that's a different part of it.
Yeah. Okay. So not only are you helping Kochi, Shikoku, but
Yeah,
also it's grown to be sort of on a national level as
yeah,
well.
yeah.
Yeah. Fabulous.
Which
I,
is
hmm.
which is bad in a way because I know they're just coming. I don't have a background in diversity management. I used to do finance, and they just see me as, oh, she's a woman. She must know everything about diversity. Oh, let's have her on
Yeah.
our. Look, that is the annoying part,
Yeah.
but I have to embrace it and just run with it.
Well, why not you? Yeah. And, yeah, obviously that's just make the women teach us all about it, but because it's a woman's problem, right? Diversity. So,
That's what they think. That's what they think. I try not to focus on females and women in my
mm,
unconscious bias training. I
mhm,
deliberately take the focus away from that and
mm,
then generalize it. So I'll talk about just everything. I talk about like imposter syndrome. Everybody has that, so it doesn't just affect the women; it
mm,
affects men
mm.
as well.
Yeah, well, that's really interesting that you wouldn't have picked that when you were, because last time I spoke to you, you were doing things with NHK, you were going
Oh, I
around
still
doing
do that
TV.
too. Yeah,
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 but this has really come up, and I guess it's a kind of a timely thing. It's something that is kind of hot right now, if you will, in
yeah,
Japan. There's a lot
yeah,
of attention and money being spent on this.
yeah.
It'll be interesting to see how this actually pans out to real changes in society in the future. But I'm glad that someone like you is working on it, Violet. That's
I hope
fantastic.
so. And I'm
Mm.
happy that some companies are so open-minded that they would hire someone like me because I'm really off the traditional path of, being in a corporate world and doing. I'm so far from it. I'm living in the mountains, in the middle of the mountains, doing something different. I'm an entrepreneur now, and I'm not in that world, and I'm not in the corporate world. So it's just good to see that companies are becoming more open-minded to hire someone like me. I'm 41 years old, and so this activist investor, on average, the board is like 60, I would say.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah.
They're 20, 30, they're probably 20, 30 plus years older than me, all men,
Mm.
all Japanese men. So for a company like that to be open-minded enough to hire someone like me, I think is good to see the
Mm.
change is slowly happening.
Wow, that's fantastic. Are they going to get an education, do you think, when you show
Well,
up?
them putting me on the board and then them actually listening to what I have to say is another thing. So I'll see how that
Mm.
works out.
Interesting. Yeah. Okay. Oh my goodness. So, yeah, what would you say to people who are banging their head against the wall? Because I think last time I spoke to you, I
Yeah,
really got the feeling that's where you were kind of at, really like this wasn't working. You were talking to these people, nothing had happened, and all this sort of thing. What
yeah.
would you say to those people who are sort of at that point where you were about 2 years ago?
I think it's really hard to give advice because you have to learn from your own experience and you have to do it and learn from it and then move on. But the it wasn't an easy ride. Like if you're trying to do anything in the countryside, there are rules, unspoken rules that you have
Mm,
to follow, and you don't know that until you actually put yourself in there and actually do it. And some things work, some things didn't. Just don't be scared to be bold, because if you limit yourself or don't challenge yourself, you're never going to get there. If you don't take the risk, you're not going to know. And what's the worst that could happen? Someone could say, no, that's it. It's not going to kill you. It's not the end of the
mm,
life. Your life,
mhm,
like you learn from all those lessons. It's all a learning experience. So I would say just do it.
mm. So how have things changed since then with working with local government? If they changed their attitude, anything
Uh,
different, or are they still dragging their feet down there?
what I've learned from this experience is that
Mm.
don't waste your time working with the local government. Just do it yourself. It's not worth it. When I say local government, I'm talking town level. I think prefecture level, it's slightly different. But when
Hmm.
it comes to the town level, especially in this town, other towns are more proactive. So this is not equal across Japan. But for this town specifically, um, the change within that town is not happen, or maybe it will take a long time. So I'm not here to I'm not here to run for office. I'm not here for waste my time trying to change their views, because if they are not unconscious bias, they haven't seen the world outside of this town. So it's really difficult to explain to people like that what I'm trying to do, or what the vision is, or what the rest of Japan is doing, and they're getting left behind. It's easier and quicker to just do it yourself.
Case
Yeah.
in point. Yeah.
Yeah. You
Yeah.
don't have to, if you do stuff on your own land, if you do it with your own, resources, no one can say anything to you. That's what I've learned.
Mm.
If you try and use the government, if you're trying to do anything with the local government, you have to go through all sorts of different levels of layers of approvals, and then there's going to be someone that's going to be like, no. Actually, it's always 100% of the time it's no.
Mm.
So it's best to just do it yourself.
Right. Yeah. Just get on with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've heard that from other people as well. Like if you ask for permission, you're gonna get a no. So you might as
Yeah.
well just do what you can and get
Yeah.
started and ask for forgiveness later, as long as
Mm,
your intentions are good, which I'm sure yours are, and people who are wanting to improve things generally are.
yeah.
People are just looking for a way to not be responsible for any decisions and, to push paper until 5 o'clock and go home or whatever it is, I feel. Mm.
I think also not to conform to whatever it is that so I see a lot of people moving here, Japanese and foreigners, and they try and really fit in to become one of the locals, and you're never going to fit in. And so I've just done the opposite. I've just stayed true to myself, and I get a lot of local TV interviews, and I'm still myself. I'll talk about the money. I'll talk about my vision. And my mother will watch it, and she's local. She's from here, so she's like, Violet, you sound so arrogant, and you always talking down to. You sound like you're talking down to people. You need to, and people aren't going to understand what you're saying because people out around here are very reserved, and you need to conform. And I'm like, no, that's not who I am. I'm just going to be myself. I'm not trying to boast. I'm just talking facts. And
Yeah,
then I
these are
always talk about
facts.
I always like raise the point that this town is like the fifth poorest town in the whole of Japan. So there are like 3,000 something towns and villages in Japan, and this is the government statistic. I'm not making this up. That every town has their income ranking ranked from
Mm,
1
mm,
to 3,000. Minatoku, which is where is number one in Japan in terms of income level,
mm,
and this town is fifth from bottom. And there are other towns like below us, which like in Okinawa, I think. So
mm.
this is one of the poorest areas in Japan, and I always talk about this. Even on Japanese TV, I always talk about this. And then my mother doesn't like it. She's like, "Well, what are the neighbors going to think?" And then I was like, and then so the activist investor, they said they saw those interviews and they were impressed. And I was like, look, I'm not saying who I am.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
this is who I am. And obviously there are people out there that appreciate the way I think.
yeah.
So I am not going to conform to whatever it is this Inaka people think or do, because this business wouldn't have become what it is now if I conformed to their ideals.
Exactly. Yeah. How interesting. Your mum was like, "Oh my God, what will the neighbors think?" And
She's
the
embarrassed by me. Yeah.
she's what? Sorry.
She says she's embarrassed by me.
Okay.
Not, I don't think she is anymore, but at the beginning she was. She was always trying to shush
Mm,
me or trying to tell me to be quiet, or don't be so, don't speak up, don't do this, don't do that. But I sit on, I'm the vice chair at the chamber, local chamber now, like for the Women's Network, and I didn't ask to be made that position. They said, why do you want to do it? And these ladies in their 80s who are part of the chamber, because there are no young people around here, and these old ladies in their 80s and 70s asked me to do it. Like if they thought that I was too outspoken and
mm.
arrogant, I don't think they would have asked me. So I'm sorry, Mum, you were wrong.
I guess you are in a way helping your mum to let go of that sort of education she's had from growing up and sort of living in Otoyo where you be
Yeah.
quiet and women be quiet and don't say
Yeah.
anything and
And that
just
goes back to my unconscious bias training, because what's interesting is like I taught 3 unconscious bias trainings to local regions in this area at the beginning of this year. And sometimes older people come, older ladies and men, And most of the women would say my imposter syndrome. So imposter syndrome, or not just imposter syndrome, unconscious bias on yourself usually stems from some bad experience you've had growing up. And that kind of gets built into your brain to protect yourself because you don't want to have those bad experiences anymore. So if you did something and you were embarrassed by it, or you were scolded at school, or you were told off by your parents, that is, you know, ingrained in you. So when you get older, you start putting limitations on yourself, thinking, oh, I can't do that. You know, I'm not very good at that. But that's just a bias you're putting on yourself. Really, you can, but it's just some experience you've had in the past. So I teach that. And it was interesting. Most of the women would say, oh, I'm not very good at speaking in front of people. I can't stand up and say my iken, like say
Opinion.
or say my view, or, you know. And I said to her, is there something like, do you think that was because something happened to you as a child? And she was like, yeah, maybe when I was a child, you know, we weren't allowed to speak up in the public place or at school. Like we had to form lines and blah, blah, blah. And she gave me loads of examples, and that made a lot of sense. And if these girls and women, especially around here, they will put their husbands, you know, for example, like we have PTA, and I always thought more mothers did PTA than fathers, but in this town it's the opposite. No mothers do it. It's all men, nearly 100% of men doing PTA. And if something that we have a form, like, so I don't know if I should give examples now because they might listen to the podcast, but, you know, so for example, I'm just going to say it because she might listen to it and she needs to learn from this. So there's a local cafe owner who comes and trains here, and she makes these little, I asked her to make these for my guests, these little biscottis for my guests.
Oh, lovely.
And I said, oh, can you just do a little write-up of who you are, why you came to this town, why you're making this, you know, this is made in this town, and you're doing this with your husband, and maybe it'll promote your other business, which is the rafting business they have, canoe business. She's like, okay. And then she did it and then wrote her husband's name on the bottom, and she brought it to me, and I was like, why did you, where's your name? She's like, oh, but you know, it's my husband's. I was like, no, but did your husband make this biscotti? And she's like, no, I made it. I was like, why are you putting your husband's name down? That's just one example, but a lot of women here will put their husband's names down, even if they did it themselves. They just give the credit to their husband because that's what they're told to do. People my age are doing it. People like in their 30s and 40s are doing it.
Goodness me. That's interesting.
Yeah.
I'm interested to hear more about this, sending the husbands to the PTA, because
yeah.
And I think it's this woman not being able to speak up, or not having the confidence to say, no, I won't do that, or yes, I would like to do that, or like managing the relationships that happen in the PTA, right?
Yeah.
Is it something like that? Because I don't see that here, and I wouldn't call us a city either. Like, we're kind of small town, but it's not till sixth grade that the fathers start showing up at the PTA because the mothers don't want to be roped into something. It's a avoidance tactic, basically.
Oh.
Yeah, send the father along because he's less likely to be like, oh, Nakata-san, oh, you, why don't you take a turn? You know, like, they just show up, get the information, and go home.
I've noticed that the BTA group are exactly the same group of people every single year, and it's the same set of men. And the first year I came here, I was like, oh, I'll be the head of PTA PR division. And I raised my hand. And the guy that usually does it was so pissed off. I didn't realize that it was like...
That was the thing.
Yeah, everyone was doing, every person was, it was the same person. It was, the role was going to the same person every year. Like, I didn't know that. So I raised my hand. I became the head of PTA for the PR department. And I couldn't understand why this guy was so mean to me, like why he was always off with me, like trying to start fights with me, you know, on purpose. I was like, what's wrong with him? And then when I stepped back, because my kids and my husband went to America for a year, and he became that role. And then this year he's also that role. And last year he was, and I was like, oh, that makes sense. I took his role away from him because I raised my hand and he didn't like it. But why did the men do it? I got sidetracked. Women don't speak up. And they all say they've got more responsibilities at home. And, you know, my clients, my CrossFit clients, women, female CrossFit clients, talk about, and they're my age, you know, 30s, 40s, 50s, they talk about husbands not doing anything at home. They don't help. They don't cook, clean, help anything at all at home. They just sit there and wait for their food to be served.
Yeah.
That's just unbelievable in my age group. I thought it was like the older
That
generation.
was a generation ago, surely. No, it's
Yeah.
not.
In Tokyo, it's a generation ago. I think people might, you know, our generation tend to help out more. So it is just eye-opening how
Interesting.
very backwards it is here.
Still struggling to catch up with.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's what I see when I visit my parents-in-law. You know?
Yeah. No,
Like,
it's
I
not
mean,
like,
obviously, it's not like my father-in-law does nothing all day. He's out in the fields all day doing hard work. But as soon as he gets in the house, he sits there and waits for his food. And it's like, well, what if there's no food? You know? Yeah. Interesting, isn't it? Okay. Yeah.
yeah.
I think it's what I do see about fathers being in the PTA here is it's kind of like a career move thing, like as in there's some kind of business that they're involved in that they want to be seen to be doing something in the community. And
Yeah.
so this is one of the places they show up. It's the PTA, or, you know, it's the Chamber of Commerce, sure, but there's other places as well. And so in the future, they might be running for city council, or yeah, they want their business to be seen in a good light. And so they're on the PTA. That's kind of what I see here. Once
Yeah.
we get up
No.
to the citywide PTA, I'm like, well, where are all the women that actually do all the work? Because it's just men on there. It's really weird. Yeah. Anyway.
No, I think it's the same here. I reckon those people have ambitions to become like the local politician
Yeah, there's
eventually.
some kind of ambition behind it, which
Yeah, I think
the
so.
mothers don't have. It's just like, okay, I was chosen and so I'm here and so I'm doing whatever it is I have to be doing. But there's no ambition behind it there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I did think about running for the local politician spot, but when you actually look at what they have to do and the amount of time they have to spend on it and the little amount of money they get paid, it's just not worth it. And you can create, I realized like you can be a catalyst for change in other ways. I don't think being a politician is a catalyst for change, because they are just, for here, this town, I don't know how other towns are, but this town, they're just there to collect the public's opinions, and then they just present that at the Gikai. That's all they seem to do. So do they really have their own opinions like put forward? I don't know. It's a good way to bring about change.
Yeah, you're representing the town's people, so you have to kind of put forward
Yeah.
their ideas and things and find out what they're thinking, etc. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, you can do more, you can definitely do a lot more, a lot quicker. The things
Mm.
that matter to you, obviously, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you heard of Naomi Koshi? She was mayor of Otsu City. No?
No.
She's a lawyer in Tokyo, but she became mayor of Otsu City for 2 terms. She had 2 terms.
Is she the one that Catherine had on her podcast?
Yes, yes, yes.
Yes, I bought her book after I heard her podcast. Like I
Oh,
went,
wow.
oh, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
And she also runs Women on Boards, sort of training things as well. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
shit.
yeah. She did amazing things in Otsu City by
Yeah,
becoming mayor, right? But she had to fight
yeah,
she still had to fight with the people underneath her to get them to do what she wanted to do,
yeah.
right?
It's
So
such
even
a
when you get
job.
to the position like mayor, it's like still a battle
Mm,
to get people to actually
yeah,
do something.
I really admire people like that, because I just don't have it in me to fight anymore. Like I'm just so tired. We have had no days off, like since this CrossFit open, we haven't had any days off. And even like during Golden Week, even if the gym is closed, we still have this accommodation to deal with. And yes, I have 3 cleaners that come, but none of them can do Sundays or bank holidays, so I have to clean on Sundays and bank holidays, which means like after I teach the class, or if my husband's teaching the class, I can come and clean. But usually like on Sundays or bank holidays, he's off with the kids to take them to a track meet or some sort of competition. So I'm just left here by myself. So
Mm.
like I'm teaching the class and I have to come and clean, and like every day has just been a struggle, and I just don't have it in me to fight anymore. I'm trying to get through the days. I've got 3 kids, I've got a
Yeah, you got a lot of stuff happening, right?
house and the business. So it's
Mm.
really tough being a small business owner. And I think that's what I didn't know 2 years ago in the podcast, like how hard it was going to be to run my own business. It's draining. It's fun, but it's draining.
Yeah. Yeah, it's endless, right? It's just daily grind. It's endless. Yeah.
Yes. And I know I haven't done a good job promoting this place, and I'm just about to hire a PR manager. So I'm talking to a few people. I've been interviewing this month, and
Mm.
yeah, I'm just hoping that we can get someone good that can help us promote this place a bit better.
Yeah, well, that would be exciting if you can get someone who
Yeah,
knows what they're doing and
yeah,
yeah, get more feet through the door for the classes and
yeah.
more
So,
revenue happening so you can do less.
like, I think hiring and staff is the most difficult part for me. Like,
Mm.
raising the money is what I do. I can do that part. I
Yeah.
can do that all day. I can promote
Yeah,
this
no
business,
worries. Yeah.
get the money. But then when it comes to running the business, that's the hardest part. Like, I've never done it before. So, uh,
Major
hiring
learning there. Mm.
Yeah, hiring the right talent, knowing when to hire, how to scale the business or grow this business. I've got loads of other things I want to do. Like I want to go, manage to raise Japanese 120 million yen. I want to raise another 500 million yen to build a hotel next. Like I've already got it. I've already spoken to the architects. I already have the land. I already have it in my head. Like this is the next thing I want to do. But I'm not very good at like scaling it and hiring the right people. So if I can't do that, I'm stuck.
Right. Yeah. So I'm seeing, yeah, this is your zone of genius. This raising the money, the vision, building it, and then you need to hand it off somehow, right? To,
Yeah.
yeah. Interesting. Yeah, well, this is definitely a learning because when you build this hotel, right, y- you got to get, I think you got to get this one right first before this hotel comes along, right? Because that's bigger scale,
Yeah.
larger scale of all
Yeah.
of this, what's going on. This is just the training ground for part
Yeah.
two. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm kind of like torn between building a small boutique hotel and just buying up a bunch of IKEA and renovating it nicely higher end to rent those out, B&B style. But
Mm.
starting to realize with this house, if this tiny house wasn't attached to our CrossFit, I wouldn't be able to come and clean it. If I have all these IKEAs all over the place, like, and the cleaner like phones in sick the night before, like someone's going to have to clean because
Yep.
we're going to have to
Next one's
drive all the
coming.
way because they
Yeah.
check out and then someone else checks in on the same day. Like it might be a bit of a nightmare. So I don't know. I haven't figured it out. I haven't figured out what I'm going to do.
Well, it sounds like you're definitely learning the lessons you need to learn, right, in order for this
Mm.
next thing to be successful. Make sure you build that bridge to the island before you start building the next bridge. You get to the other side.
That's
'Cause-
my weakness, I guess. I just start going from one project to the next project to the next project to the next project, and I've always got
yeah.
different projects going on and multiple projects going on in my head. It doesn't stop.
There's so many interesting challenges that come up when you start something new. And I bet you probably didn't, yeah, you didn't think 2 years ago that running that actual business would be the hardest part rather
Yeah.
than the building it, the finding the money and all of that. I'm sure it wasn't easy, but
Mm.
great learnings, isn't it? And I'm really excited to see what happens next. And I wish you all the best with finding those team members that's going to make running this current project
Yeah.
fun and enjoyable, which
Yeah.
leads to it going on for a long time. Mm.
Thank you. We have had, since the borders have opened up, we've had tons of inbound tourists, and a lot of them are CrossFitters coming from Europe.
Wow.
We've had clients from Denmark and Belgium and France and all sorts of places like US, like because Germany as well, they want to work out while they 90% of our tiny house guests don't work out, and they just book this location because it's convenient, and they'll use this, they might stay for a week and then they'll just drive off to different places in Shikoku because we're right in the middle of Shikoku. And then a few of them will come here because they're just dedicated fitness fanatics and they want to work out even when they're traveling. So they'll use the base, they'll work out, they'll go on their tourist stuff, come back, work out, they'll go and do their tourist stuff. So it's kind of working out the way I imagined it to, which is nice.
That's fantastic. Yay for the borders being open and a different kind of traveler to be able to come and enjoy what you have to offer, which just looks amazing.
And then the interesting difference I'm starting to see between like different nationalities when they stay. Foreigners tend to be more courteous and clean and understanding that this is a small business. Japanese guests, they'll stain the place, they'll damage things, they'll leave things dirty, they don't clean up after themselves, they'll steal things. Like, maybe I need to press it higher. I don't know why they're doing that. But I talked to a lot of the guest houses around here, and they say things. So it's very strange. Like when you're expecting a Japanese customer to be the polite one and to be the nice one, and it's the complete opposite.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's very strange how that works.
Maybe they don't understand the concept of staying in a tiny house as opposed to a hotel room kind of thing.
Yeah, I think they treat it like a hotel, like it's a big business. So now when they check in, I purposely say to them, this is a small business. I run this. I even wrote it out and put a little tiny house manual book in the building, in the house. And it's gotten slightly better, but they're still not as it's funny because they do moral lessons at school, so I don't understand why they can't treat a small business nicely. I guess they expect service industry workers to cater to. I have no idea. They need to be taught how to behave.
I find that very unusual.
Towels,
because it's totally obvious who took it, right?
Towels are going missing, like. Everything, because I wasn't, the first 3 months, I didn't think it was necessary for me to lock the, so I have a little, in the house, like I used to keep all the cleaning products in here. I used to keep all the extra tissues and toilet paper, and I just didn't really think about it. And I had a closet where I kept all the bed sheets and the towels, but I had the cleaner clean, so I wasn't really keeping tabs of what was here and what was missing. And then at the end of the year, New Year, she couldn't clean, so my husband and I came in and cleaned. And I'm like, hold on a minute, where are all the towels gone? I thought I bought a set of, I knew how many towels there were in the set, and then they're all gone. So.
People
and there were
taking
no
off
inbound tourists back then, that was just Japanese tourists that were coming through. So I was like, yeah, we need to start locking everything, and I'm not leaving anything extra in the house because they are getting taken. It was a good learning experience.
Well, yeah. There's certainly an art to running a business where people come and stay with you. Yeah.
And then there's another difference I've noticed. Like I always leave these little like bits of tea and cookies, and if there's a Japanese guest, all of this will be gone. 100%.
Take it with you. Yeah.
Most foreign guests don't even touch any of it. Like especially the Japanese teas don't get touched. They don't drink these. I thought people would drink my fancy English like flavored.
That looks lovely. Yeah.
Most people don't drink those. Actually, there was an English guy here and he drank those, but most of them don't. Most people don't touch the cookies. Foreigners. So it's strange. Like maybe they have more food allergies and they don't want to eat something they don't know what's in. Like
it could be a thing of like, I don't really know what this is, so I don't want to like waste it or use it. But definitely clean out the old teas and coffees.
I do. I'll take it.
I do that when we're in the hotel. Like, yay.
It's interesting seeing different guest habits from different countries because they tend to have different countries, different people. Like the Japanese teas, I'm surprised. I thought people came here because they wanted to drink Japanese tea, but none of it's been drank. The Japanese teas just don't get drank at all. I'll stop listening to that.
Interesting. I have worked in accommodation business pretty much my whole life, and you'll hear
Oh,
certain nationalities will be more noisy about how hard or how soft the bed is, and it's like,
oh
what?
really?
Yeah, yeah, like certain Europeans will always comment on the bed being too soft. They're like hard beds, and other
Oh,
Europeans do not comment on it, and they prefer
really?
the softer beds, and yeah, yeah.
Do you have a bed or is it tatami?
No, no, no. Like a bed. So, beds can be of different hardnesses or softnesses and things.
Do
So,
they comment on your review or they tell you
oh,
verbally?
yeah, both. Like tell you to your face and comment on the reviews and things. So,
No one's,
can't win because other people like it, right? But
yeah.
certain nationalities don't like, but they expect it to be the same as their own country, right? Even though they're traveling around the world. So,
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
We got
Yeah.
everything from IKEA, so no one's commented on that yet.
Well, that might be
Used to
a good
IKEA beds.
a good trick. Get everything from
Yeah.
IKEA. Potentially everybody's used to it.
Yeah, I know.
Oh, well, it's been great to catch up with you today, Violet, and hear about all of these things, all of your learnings that you had going through these, creating an amazing facility in the middle of a little old town in Kochi Prefecture. So I just want that to be an inspirational story to others that you can create change if you see something that needs to be changed. And yeah, maybe you don't need to go to the local government to ask for help. Just get on and do it yourself and
Yeah,
look what you can achieve. People will listen to you, even if your mum thinks you're being too loud or whatever. Other people find it useful and interesting, and yeah, be yourself. Just be
yeah,
yourself.
yeah.
Yeah, be you. I think that's the best advice, whatever that looks like. Yeah. Alrighty, well, keep on doing what you're doing, Violet. Thank you so much for your time today.
Yeah, thanks, Jane, for having me on again.